Hi everyone, welcome to our channel. So this is Angular 16 CRUD operation video and it is a part 2 video. In this video, we are going to implement read operation, means fetching the API and binding the API response into our Angular application. So previously we have set up the JSON server, right? And it is returning some sample response. So in this video, we are going to bind this response data into the UI. Okay. So let's go to our Angular project. Okay. For displaying the API response content, okay, I'm going to create one more new component. Okay. So to create new component in Angular, we can use CLI commands. Open the terminal and enter command like ng generate component. Okay, and I want to create a folder under this app folder. Okay, any component we create, it will go under automatically under app folder. Okay, so I want to create a one folder like superheroes. Inside of it I want to create a component. Okay, so now here I have to specify the name of my component. So I will name it like all super heroes. Okay, this is the name of the component. For my demo, I don't want any testing files for my component. So I can use flag like hyphen if hyphen tests. Okay, run the command. Okay, here you can see some logs like created HTML file, TSS file, and TS file. So we know, right, these three files combinedly will make a Angular component. Okay. So if I go to the file structure, inside of the app, we have a new folder like superheroes. Inside of it, we have another folder like superheroes. Under it, we have component files. Okay. So this is our new component. This is the default HTML content, and this is our component and empty CSS file. Okay. Now let's configure a route for this component. Okay. So whenever we map a route for this component in app component.html, we have a route outlet, right? So whatever route we define, that component value gets rendered inside of this element. Okay. So let's map the routing. For that, we have app routing module file, right? Go to there. Okay, in the routes array, let's define the routing. Okay, and add a new object and property like path. And I want this all superheroes component to be a home component. So I am simply specify path like empty. That represents my home path. Okay, and here we have to define the component as well. For that path, with which component has to be load. Okay. So here I will give all superheroes component and it is automatically get imported. Okay. So let's check whether we are able to get this HTML content or not on our home page. Okay. See, here I am getting the text like all superheroes works. That is coming from the all superheroes.component.html. So that represents our new component is successfully configured with routing. Okay. So now let me create a response model for this API. Let me create a model inside of the superheroes folder. Okay. So for that, open the terminal again, clear the logs. So command for generating a model is like ng generate, and in general models we will create as interfaces. Okay, so interface, I want to create an interface. So inside of the superheroes model, right? Here we have to specify the folder name and name of the model. I simply give same name like superheroes. Okay, the first thing is the folder name, and this is the uh, file name. And for interfaces, ng generate won't create any folder. Okay, new folder. Okay, so let's run the command. And here you can see superheroes.ts file got created. So if you go to the folder structure under the superheroes, now we have superheroes interface. Okay, now this must contains our payload properties, right? So copy them and add them here and change their types. So ID will be the number and remaining all will be the string. Okay, okay, this is our final API response model type. Okay, now let's create a one more file in the superheroes folder. Okay, that is service file. Okay, in Angular, service files are used to implement the logic for invoking the API calls. Okay, so open the terminal. So command is like ng generate. So now I want to create a service, right? I have to define the template type like service. Okay, inside of the superheroes folder, I want to create the service. So specify the folder name superhero. Okay, and now just specify the name of the service. I will give same like name like superheroes. So on generating, it will generate like super-heroes dot service dot ts file. Okay, and skip. I don't want any tests files. Okay, see here. Super-heroes dot service dot ts file is generated. Let's go to our folder structure, and here is our superhero service. So services are always decorated with the injectable directive. That is because if the class is decorated with injectable, it is a service. So service itself means it can be injected wherever we want, any component or any other service. Like that, we can do constructor injection. Okay. So as an initial step, first we have to inject the Angular HTTP client instance into the constructor of our service. Okay. So private HTTP client. So let's get imported from the port from @Angular slash common slash HTTP. Okay. And from here I can import the HTTP client. Okay. Since in the service I am using HTTP client, right? So it module must be imported in our app module file. So go to the app module file, okay, and import the HTTP client module, okay, HTTP client module, and that is loading from same Angular slash common slash HTTP. Okay, now let's get back to our service file and let's create a new method like get. Okay, and this get method going to return array of superheroes result set by invoking the HTTP get endpoint. Okay, in Angular, while returning, I can use observable. Okay, okay, that comes from RxJS. Okay, observable, and here I have to specify I am going to get collection of students, right? So sorry, superheroes, right? Superhero interface and array type. Okay. Okay, this observable like is a watcher. Okay, waits for the result. Now here I can invoke the API call. Okay. So I am going to return this dot http dot, and we are going to invoke a http get endpoint, right? So we will have a method like a get. Okay. And to this method, I can define the return type like superheroes array. Okay. And to this method, we have to pass our endpoint. And if you observe this get method, it is a return type of observable. Okay. And this is my endpoint, right? Copy the endpoint, add it here. So that is the logic for invoking our HTTP get endpoint in the service file. Now this service file I can use in my component, and I can call this API call. So let's go to our all superheroes component.ts file. So here I want to use it. Okay. So to use it, let's add the constructor here. And since it is a service, right, injectable service, so in my component I can inject it directly. So private superhero service. Okay. And its type we have to define. Okay, that comes from our superheroes. Now here let me create a method. Okay, like get. Okay, so inside get API call, let me give it like get API. Okay, and here let me invoke the API call. For that I can use my superhero service dot get. So this get is a observable, right? Like a watcher. So we have to subscribe for the result. That means we have to write a method that get executed whenever the API returns the response. So that is like subscribe, and it's going to return the response data. Okay, and that's it. Okay. So for now, let's log the response data to the console log. Okay. So if I check, I need to invoke this API call from the component. So I want to call the API call, and I want to bind the response, right? Means whenever the component is loaded, this method must be executed automatically. To execute automatically, we can implement one lifecycle method in the Angular. So let's implement the lifecycle method. So on init. Okay. So import the namespace that comes from the Angular core. And now let's implement the on init method. Ng on init method. So this is the lifecycle method gets executed whenever the component is rendered. So inside of it, I am going to call my this dot get API call. Okay. So let's go to our application in the browser and check whether we are able to invoke the API call or not. Okay. So let me inspect element. Okay. And go to the network calls and refresh the page. Okay. And if I go check the network calls, see here is my superheroes API call, and it is get method, and it is 200 status okay. And if I go to preview, this is the response I am getting. Okay, the response. So we have successfully implemented the logic for invoking the API call, and now I am getting the data also. So that data needs to be binded to the UI. Okay. So for that, what I will do, instead of storing the console log, let me create a variable here, component variable. Okay. So I will name it like all superheroes. Okay. And its type is superheroes array type. and initially it will be empty. Okay, empty array. Once the API call is success, then I am going to push the data to my all superheroes variable. Okay, now I have to use this component variable in the HTML for binding the data. For that, go to our all superheroes or component.html. Okay, and here what I will do means I am going to use the Angular material card to bind the each item from this collection. Okay, for that go to Angular material website and go to the components and look for cards component. Okay, here is the cards component and go to the example section and let's get this kind of UI representation. So for that, let's copy this mad card HTML content. Okay, so add it here. Okay, and now what I can do, each item should be applied to one card, right? So I can use Angular ng for attribute. Okay, star ng for. Okay, so it going to iterate this entire uh, mat card element. Okay, so based on the collection. So let item of, so what is our component variable that contains the API response collection, all superheroes, right? So copy that and add it here. So here what it will do, ng for it will iterate each object from this array and assign that object to the item variable. So using the item variable, I can bind the data here. Okay. So here what I will do, here title will be the name of the superhero. So in Angular for data binding, we have to use string interpolation or we can call double flower brackets approach. Okay. So here it will take a dynamic content, a dynamic expression that can be rendered here. Okay, here I can use item variable dot and what is our response type name, right? So copy that property and add here. Okay, or else you can copy from our superhero model type, right? So here copy from here. Okay, so here I am going to add that one and here let me remove this subtitle. Okay, and I don't want any avatar. Let's remove this. Okay, and here image. So let's bind the image here. Okay, so flower brackets for attributes also we can make dynamic value using the string interpolation. Okay, item dot image URL. Okay, where is that? And here let me remove this content and let's bind the franchise first, franchise value, and I will open flower brackets item dot franchise. Okay, and let me add one more p tag for displaying the gender. Okay, so gender and change the property name as well. Okay, now let's check the output. So here we are getting some error. Mat card component is unknown. That is because whenever we use any component in the Angular material, we have to import its relevant module. Okay, so for that, go to top of the page and go to API section, and here there will be the imports line. So copy this mat card module import, and it should be imported in our app module. Okay, so here let me add it and this must be registered in our imports array. So save it. Now let's check. See, I am binding data. I am getting some data, right? But the card is displaying too big. So what I will do? Let's make it short like this. For that, here there is a CSS. So let's copy this and let's go to our all superheroes component.css file and add it here. Okay. Now we can see, right, a little smaller cards. And I don't want this like and share button. Let's remove that HTML content. Here is the mat card actions, right? Remove them. Okay. So save it. Okay. Now little better. But this background is applied default gray color, right? So first let's make it white. Okay. Default theme color it. Okay. So let me make it white. So here I can add background color white. Okay. Now it is visible little better. Okay. Now I want to display this content side by side. Okay. And I want to display this content centered. So what I will do, let's wrap this entire card inside of a div first. Okay. So div. Okay. And let me add a new class in my CSS file. Okay. So I will name it like card container. Okay. First, let's use uh, flex styling. Okay. Let me add display flex. Okay. And let's copy this card and add a class here. Now check. Now it is coming side by side because flex direction by default row. Okay. I want this content to be display if more number of cards instead of expanding or shrinking the cards. What we will do to go to the next slide, I can use uh, something like flex wrap. Okay, flex wrap. So since here we have only two items, right? Because of that we are not seeing any difference here. But when we have three or four cards, then it will automatically goes down next card. That is because of flex wrap. Okay, and I want this content to be centered, so I can use justify content center. Okay, now center. And I want some padding top, bottom, and left and right. So for that, what I will do here, I can apply margin 10 pixels. Okay, now I am getting margin side, top, everywhere. It is getting margin. And let me make the cards little bit smaller. So for that, let's define max width like 250 pixels. Okay, now little better, right? So we are successfully implemented the read operation in our Angular 16 application. Next, we are going to implement create operation. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this video delivered some useful content to you all. If you like the video, please do support me by subscribing to the channel, and also please don't forget to like and share the video. Soon we are going to meet with new content. Until then, signing off.